Welcome back, all you awakened savages. And today we're talking about one of the most important things a man can have on this awakened journey. You ever get hyped up watching a motivational video? Right? I used to do it all the time. I'd be on the treadmill in the gym. I remember it. I'd be at like 5:30 in the morning and watching these motivational videos, and I'd be super excited, all kind of hyped up. But then I'd waste the next 3 hours doom scrolling on my phone every time I got a break in between clients or I had a moment spare, right? And it's difficult because you're all fired up at 6 o'clock and then by noon you're just flatlining, right? Motivation feels good in the moment, but it doesn't actually build anything. And every time it fades, what's left is half-finished workouts, half-finished business plans, that version of you that you keep postponing. Right? I used to chase dopamine like it was purpose. Right? The highs of likes, the rush of alcohol and drugs, the little thrill of starting something new. But it never lasted because the thing that I was missing was a mission, right? Not a goal, not some new year, new me resolution, a reason, a code, right? And what I've come to learn is discipline isn't the prison, it's the path. Okay, and let me help you understand why, right? Because the brain lies, right? And also the world profits from our leaks. And discipline isn't punishment, it's your portal to power, right? And this is the thing you won't hear in most self-help circles, right? You don't lack discipline because you're lazy. You lack it because your biology has been hijacked and your mission has went AWOL. Okay, and let's break it down, right? Dopamine isn't the problem, it's the setup. Your brain runs on dopamine, right? But it's not the pleasure chemical, it's the pursuit chemical. Every time you check your phone, scroll, snack, get a like, you get a little hit, your brain starts associating effort with pain and shortcuts with relief. So what happens then is the gym feels hard, so your mind will resist it, right? Alcohol, grabbing that beer, feels easy, so your mind rewards it. Right? Porn feels easy, so your mind rewards it. Big goals feel overwhelming, so then you default to distraction. So you're not failing, you've been trained to seek spikes instead of substance. Okay, and you've got the dopamine distraction loop. And what it looks like is you feel discomfort, you seek escape, then you get a dopamine spike, and your nervous system feels calm for now, but the real issue deepens, and then your field fractures again. So you're not addicted to the app, you're addicted to the feeling of momentary relief from purpose avoidance. Okay, and if we look at the neuroscience of willpower, right, why it depletes when you're misaligned, discipline doesn't live in willpower, it lives in coherence. When your values, your words, and your actions don't match, your prefrontal cortex burns more fuel trying to manage the gap. So you say that you want clarity, but you live in absolute fucking madness and chaos. You say that you want strength, but you eat like you fucking hate yourself. Right? And you say that you want legacy, but you live for likes and validation. That is internal dissonance. That's where your willpower will bleed out. So again, you're not broken, you're just out of sync with your design. And that's what we're here to look at today, right? Because discipline doesn't disappear. It's stolen by unhealed distortions and unspoken truths. Discipline isn't a mood. It's a field condition. And see, most men, their field is fragmented, right? You're trying to run a legacy level mission on a voltage depleted nervous system inside a signal distorted spiritual frame. Let's name it for what it is. And let's look at some of the leaks that you can experience on this journey, right? And the first one we'll look at is emotional avoidance, right? Unprocessed equals unavailable. Every time you suppress anger, fear, grief, it doesn't just fucking disappear. It embeds in your tissue, it embeds in your field. You don't feel tired because lack of rest. You feel tired because of resistance. Every unprocessed emotion is an open circuit draining your will. Right? For example, right? This is one that I've struggled with my whole adult life. Right? So you ignore the tension that you've had with your wife or your partner for weeks. right? And you're saying, I'm just staying calm. But really, you're bleeding presence, because when you're stuck in that tension, you can't focus on work. You're snapping at your kids, you're snapping at your friends, you're snapping at your employees. And I remember it like clear as day. Anytime I would be arguing or have tension with my wife, I could not focus on fucking anything else because I was so trapped in that tension and worry and fear, and anxiety. And my energy would leak everywhere. Okay, and the next one is the hidden shame that we carry, right? Because the field collapses through incoherence, right? When who you show the world and who you know yourself to be don't match, your field fragments. And this isn't woo-woo, this is wave interference, right? Biologically, it's cortisol overload, right? Energetically, it's scalar dephasing, right? So it's energetic incoherence, and that's caused by unresolved emotion, misalignment, or false identity. This is why men feel, so disconnected. You might say, I'm disciplined, but then you binge on junk food late at night. You say that you're disciplined and you're going to go to the gym, but the next day you wake up and you hit the snooze button and you fucking forget all about it. And then what happens is your body doesn't believe a word you say anymore. You cannot lie to your nervous system. It remembers every single fucking break in integrity. Right? Let's look at another league, right? Ancestral inheritance. Right? Because this is unresolved loops in your bloodline. Right? Some of your exhaustion isn't even yours. Right? It's an epigenetic memory. Right? And this can go back over 7 generations, maybe even more. And that could be the silence of your father, the rage of his father, right? Or the fucking anger of your great-great-grandfather, right? The freeze response is passed down like inheritance. And discipline collapses when your field is overburdened with undigested inheritance, right? For example, right? This is one that I struggled with. Every time you get close to some type of success, you sabotage it. And mine would normally be a bender. I would go out in a bender and I would fuck everything up, whether that be the gym or I was on target to, hit some milestones in my work, and I would just sabotage it. And it's not because you fear winning, it's because winning means breaking from the tribe's pattern of lack. That's ancestral coding and it's fucking real. Okay, and then another leak is a mission drift, right? No code equals no current, right? Purpose gives power direction. And without it, energy just disappears, right? You don't need more motivation. You need a code to live by, right? No mission is no coherence. And that's where the real collapse happens, because discipline only thrives inside a defined mission. Otherwise, it just disappears under distraction. And it's time to stop this bleeding. Okay. And, see, even for myself, right? I go back a few years ago when I had my barbershop, right? I had this successful barbershop. I had the muscles, I had the structure, and people around me, they would say, well done, mate, you've done it, you've turned things around. I can't believe you've turned your life around. And see, on paper, yeah, they were right. Right, I was sober, I was disciplined, I had built this new life that I never ever imagined that I could build. But the truth was, I was still lying to myself, because deep down, I knew the barbershop was no longer aligned with the man that I was becoming. It was safe, it was familiar, it gave me identity, routine, security, but it wasn't my mission, right? And at one point, I truly believed that it was, and I'd be doing this for the rest of my life, right? And I loved it. But see, looking back now, right, I think that I settled for what I felt was possible because I didn't believe I could achieve what I truly desired. I didn't believe I had the permission to dream bigger, right? To speak, to lead, to teach. But see, after my spiritual awakening, everything changed. Right, I was introduced to a new reality. Right, I'd spoken with angelic beings, Archangel Michael, spirit guides, ancestors. And listen, I never in a million years believed in any of that shit. I used to ridicule people for talking about it. But now it happened to me, I couldn't deny it. So if that was possible, then anything was possible. And it was after that awakening that I started walking into the shop with a different feeling. Every morning I opened the doors and, it was like a little part of me just kind of was crumbling, like it died. Because the real mirror doesn't show up when life's falling apart. It shows up when everything looks stable, but your soul's saying to you, nah, this is not it. And I remember standing in the shop one morning, fucking looking in the mirror, funny enough, because I used to have these 3 big, massive mirrors. And I was just doing my regular kind of stuff routine before clients came in. And I just had this thought is, like, you're building something that you no longer believe in. Right? And the only person that could change that would be me. Nobody's going to come in and do anything for me. And that was the moment that I didn't do it right in that second, but that was the moment that I had to face that sacred mirror, right? And not the one in the shop, the one inside me. And I started asking myself, was I living from truth? Or was I just doing what looked responsible and what other people would approve of? And that question really fucking got me thinking, because I knew what I really wanted, right? I wanted to speak, I wanted to teach, I wanted to help people rise. That's always been in me. I even remember my mum saying years ago, she said, son, you should go and, this is when I came back from America and I'd had my college degree, and she said, you should go back and retrain as a counsellor or a social worker, son. You've always had that nurturing, helping nature. And at the time, I dismissed it because I couldn't see it in myself. It was buried underneath all the layers of low self-worth, low self-esteem, just zero confidence. And at that point, I didn't even have YouTube in mind, right? I knew of it, sure, but I didn't really use it. I didn't know how to build a channel, and I had no clue how powerful it could be. All I knew was that I was done pretending, right? I was done hiding behind the clippers and the cash flow. So, not long after that, I sold the shop. I walked away from a super successful business that was only getting bigger by the day, right? An amazing income, a solid reputation, a sense of safety and security for my family. And I took that leap into the unknown. And fucking everybody thought I was crazy. They're like, what the fuck are you doing? My wife was freaking out, and still to this day, people still think, fucking, you've lost your mind. But see, that decision, it gave me myself back, right? I stopped outsourcing my safety, right? I stopped ignoring the whispers of my soul, right? I stopped lying to that man in the mirror, right? And see, that's the sacred mirror, brother. It doesn't care what you fucking built, right? It reflects what you're meant to build. And let me ask you this, right? What part of your life looks good from the outside, but feels off in the inside? Because that is your door. And see, the man you came here to be, he's on the other side of that door. So it's time to fucking step through it, right? Because see what you're facing, it isn't new, right? It's maybe new to the modern man, but it's an initiation men have walked through for thousands of years. And in this Western world, we've been fucking pushed away from it, right? So let's get clear. This isn't fatigue you're feeling. This is the war with self. And it didn't start with smartphones. It started the moment men forgot their rights. Right? We used to have a rite of passage that took us from a boy to a man, but we no longer have that. If you look at the samurais, they don't chase dopamine. They train presence. See, every sword stroke, that's part of their meditation. Every movement's a vow. And why? Because they know discipline isn't about control, right? It's about becoming unshakable in your spirit and your soul. Mastery isn't about an outcome. It's about that inner alignment under pressure, right? When temptation came, when emotion surged, the samurai didn't escape. They just breathed through it, right? If you look at the Taoist masters, like Lao Tzu, he taught that flow isn't force, but flow requires structure. Discipline to them wasn't rigidity. It was the root system that let the river of life flow without collapse. When you're out of discipline, your energy has no channel, no container, no coherence. So it just fucking leaks everywhere and then it evaporates, dissolves into anxiety, depression, right? The Tao moves through the still man, not the scattered one. And, then you look at the Stoics. Marcus Aurelius wasn't just some emperor with good quotes. No, he journaled every single night. Not because it made him feel better, but because he knew the enemy of a man's mission was the emotional chaos. Discipline for the Stoics wasn't sacrifice, it was sovereignty. They trained their minds to obey reason, right? To stay in alignment, even when everything was fucking chaotic around them. And as Seneca said, we suffer more in imagination than in reality, right? And then we look at the Hermetic mystics, right? They taught that, see, the outer world is only a projection of our inner world. And so to them, energy misalignment wasn't philosophical, it was mechanical, as within, so without. Right? They practiced purification, mental, emotional, energetic, so that their field could hold the voltage without distortion. Right? Discipline to them was how you became magnetic to truth. And what does all this mean? Right? It means that what you're facing isn't weakness, it's initiation. You're being invited into the rights you never got, the masculine maturity the modern world forgot. And you don't need to go to a monastery. You need to remember who the fuck you were before the world trained you to betray yourself. Right? And let's walk into how we can do that. Because it's now time to get on the path of realignment or the path of alignment. Okay? Discipline isn't about grinding harder. It's about returning to energetic coherence, one real daily action at a time. Right? You've felt the drain, you've seen the truth, you've faced the mirror. Now it's time to reclaim your energy. And not by becoming someone else, but by becoming more of you. Just with less noise, less avoidance, less distractions, and more alignment. Okay? And the first step here is just choose one practice, right? Every single morning before the world enters your space, right? It could be a cold shower, right? Breath work, stretch in silence, right? Just light a candle and speak your code, right? Go to the gym, okay? And this is the thing, it's so important because ritual is how you show your field that I lead here, not impulse, not chaos, not madness, me, right? It's not about the act, it's about the energetic tone it sets for the rest of the day. Right? For example, you wake up, right? You normally reach for your phone. Stop. Right? Sit at the edge of your bed. Right? Take 10 deep breaths. And you say, today, I walk in alignment. And then you begin. Right? It's that simple. Okay? Number 2, train with resistance, not excuses. Your nervous system must learn that effort is safe. So 3, 4, 5, 6, even 7 days a week, move heavy shit. Right? Get under cold water, sprint. Right? Why? Because see, a man who can face physical resistance with breath can face life's challenges, whatever happens. Right? For example, you don't feel like it. Fucking get in there and pick up that kettlebell anyway. And this isn't about getting shredded. That will be a byproduct. It's to remind your system that we show up every single day, even when it's not easy. In fact, especially when it's fucking not easy. Okay? Number 3, right? The emotional integrity check-in. Right? This is the daily review. Right? At night, you ask yourself, where did I betray myself today? Where did I stay silent when I needed to speak? Where did I numb instead of feel? Right? This isn't guilt tripping. This is field repair. Right? For example, okay, you, you skipped a hard conversation with your wife, right? Write that shit down. See, then tomorrow, you go and have that conversation, right? You speak, you listen, you lead, right? Truth is coherence. Avoidance is collapse. Okay, number 4. It's time to create and stop consuming. This is voltage generation. Every man must create art, thought, business, training, service. If you don't create, you will decay, right? What is it they say? If you don't use it, you will lose it, right? So even 30 minutes of undistracted building will rewire your brain, restore purpose, and recohere your mission, right? For example, see, instead of scrolling TikTok or fucking Instagram or whatever, write one raw paragraph about the pain you're feeling, or a sketch that depicts what you're going through, right? Or plan your next offer, right? Or write down a mission statement, right? You don't just express, you generate voltage through ownership. This is your time to fucking rise. Okay, number 5, right? Anchor your code. Repetition becomes resonance, right? Create a short personal mantra, right? Aligned with who you're becoming, right? Simple ones. For example, I move with honor. I speak what's true. I carry presence before performance. And then speak that shit every single fucking day, right? This is not hype, rah rah shit. This is calibration. See, a man who repeats his code rewires his soul. This is how we restore power. Not in fucking fantasy land, in breath, in action, in silence, when no one is watching. And if you're ready to step in there and seal it, let's fucking step into that legacy chamber right now. Okay? Because listen, bro, you have made it this far, right? And it's because something in you knows you're not here just to take part, just to get in shape, just to make money, or just to fix your sleep. You're here to become the man who fucking you were meant to be, right? Not because he's loud, because he's aligned, right? You don't need another dopamine hit. You need to live a day so true, so grounded that see when you hit that pillow at night, your soul just exhales and said, "You fucking done it today. You done it." Right? And let me ask you some deeper questions. Right? What would you change if your son caught you in full coherence? Right? If your partner looked at you and felt your presence, not just your performance. If your younger self saw you right now, would he be proud or would he be still waiting for you to fucking get your shit together? This is not about shame. This is about ownership. This is about radical fucking choice. Legacy isn't what you leave behind. It's what you live in every single day when no one's watching. So here it is. This is your mission from now moving forward. Start your rituals, anchor your code, lead with integrity, reclaim your field step by step, breath by breath. No one's coming to save you, right? But you will never be alone as long as you're here with me. Because see, every time one man rises, it gives every other man permission to remember he's a fucking awakened savage. So from one awakened savage to another, I see you, I respect you, I walk beside you, and I love you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for being with me on this journey. I truly appreciate you. Now let's go and build that new masculine, one aligned man at a time. And I'll catch you on the next one. I've got a video for you here, and you can subscribe here. Take care. Bye.